Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV Profit, and I'm here in conversation with Mr. Manish Jaiswal, MD and CEO of Poonawalla Housing Finance, which has now come up with its new brand identity as Grihum Housing Finance. Sir, you mentioned that Poonawalla Housing Finance and its new avatar as Grihum Housing Finance will cater to the affordable housing segment. Just wondering, is it a good time to tap into that space because luxury and premium housing segments are the ones that are doing well at this point of time? So why affordable housing segment right now?
Thank you. Thank you, Viman sir. That's a great question. I would say that we as an institution cater to a class and category of individuals called the SMIs, which is the self-made individuals, which largely are self-employed in the semi-urban and the hinterland of the country. This really is real India. It is this class of customers who are very differentiated from the classic flat apartment owners. In these market segments, they are largely plots of lands and on which construction happens. And I feel that more than 1 crore of such Indians deserve a roof over their head. The purpose and existence of Grihum, essentially Grih and Hum, we collaborate with our customer to ensure that they get a dignity of living, is immense. In my view, this is a sector which needs and always has got a lot of government push, and I'm reasonably certain that in times to come, there will be even more deeper push from the government to ensure that this sector is catered to, and we are right in the spot, and we believe that this is one sector which is evergreen, and it will take at least 10 more years to ensure that this class of customers have a roof over their head.
But sir, because you mentioned in the event as well that there are some discussions that has been happening with the government and the regulatory bodies as to how to push this segment and push affordable housing. So if you could just touch upon those talking points, that what is being discussed.
All I can say is industry will always have its wish list. I think the government has many agendas to balance apart from fiscal discipline. All I can say is that we had one of the best schemes ever which government administered, which was the PMAY scheme. I have seen 3 schemes rather, PMAY, ECLGS and CGT MSc. My sense is if those schemes come back in a way which is for a chosen low-income group sector, LIG sector group will need certain redefinition given the inflation which has happened. It was earlier from 3 to 6 lakhs, but I believe now given the GDP per capita rates, it should be from 4 lakhs to 9 lakhs. If it is for LIG sector, I think a launch of a similar scheme with a scheme, if there is a credit guarantee available for the self-employed customers of the hinterland, my sense is that this alone can be a $1 trillion GDP economy, given that mortgage penetration rates are 10 to 10.6% mortgage to GDP rates, and economy is growing at 7%. So we presume that 3.7 trillion economy should be 7 trillion, and at 15% GDP mortgage penetration, it should be a $1 trillion economy. If that's the runway, very clearly could be a year here or there, but the opportunities are phenomenal, and I think the government will do its all possibly to bolster the segment.
So how much of your portfolio is towards affordable housing segment?
We are completely affordable.
You mentioned 74%
Yes.
of it is.
So we cater to the segment about 7. So the customer segment remains affordable. About 70% of our customers are home loan customers, and about 30% customers are similar customers where we could be supporting them in their businesses through business loans, which is called loan against property.
So out of the 1,000 crore rupees that have been funded by TPG Capital, rupees 538 crores have already been raised. Where do you intend to deploy the rest of the funds? What is your strategy on capital deployment?
We are growing at a rate of around 28 to 30% per annum. We will need capital for growth of our business. Assuming a leverage of 4 or 5, if we get 500 crore, possibly we can lever 4 times to 5 times. That's the additional amount of loans we can give. So my sense is that once we are able to deploy this capital, the next round of infusion, by and large, could be around June, is when we should see the next round of infusion. And we see that this business will need capital constantly as we keep growing.
Right. Sir, you mentioned that you have one of the best borrowing structures in the housing finance companies. When I was actually going through the last quarter's financials, the finance cost has risen by 66%. So my question basically is that the credit rating has been lowered now. So do you think that you'll be able to enjoy the same rate of borrowing going ahead, or is it going to impact borrowing costs for you in the coming months?
So there are two issues we are talking about. One is the rating entity, with rated entity, which is we are at AA minus. It's one of the best rating an affordable housing company enjoys. Barely 5-6 affordable housing companies enjoy this kind of a rating structure. Second is the underlying nature and portfolio of the business. We are doing completely secured loans. The risk weightages are lowest. It renders online funding for the bank. So therefore, the kind of assets we generate are PSL assets. So to that extent, not only is PSL asset, it is safe, it is lowest risk weights, it also yields a very high capital efficiency to our lenders. So to that extent, given the kind of credibility the institution has built itself, we have completely enjoyed near similar rates prior to acquisition and now, and we are reasonably confident that we will continue to mine such privileges, given the nature of our business and the purpose of our existence.
Sir, any co-lending arrangements that you're planning to get into to boost your own loan book?
Yes, I think very certainly quite a few more avenues are on the horizon. Co-lending is one of them. We are conscious and aware that there is a possibility of RMBS structure through a government investment platform, which is likely to come. So the liability profile of the housing sector will see significant changes in next 2 to 3 years.
So any listing plans on the horizon?
We are deeply focused on building the institution. We have just got capital. We have just come fully on our own, coming from a very long-term association with parent. The organization will break many such glass ceilings, play its full potential. I think we will just be very focused on building what we have set out for, and all options will eventually play out in a matter of few years, so you'll get to know more about them.
Going on to the last question, you mentioned that that Grihum Housing Finance is different from other housing finance company in terms of its outreach to people. It will be more direct and digital. So I was just wondering that how can housing finance be tech-led in that sense? Because it's exciting, but it's also slightly complex because housing finance is a totally different beat or game altogether.
Yes. True that completely. Like what Ola and Uber did to cars, the road infrastructure has probably improved a little, but what has happened is that when you need a vehicle, it reaches you on time with a certain amount of predictability. So the infrastructure, even on, if I were to put this analogy back in our business, the land records are still far from digitized. But what will happen is the platforms of convenience, the customer experience journeys, the assisted journey through the infrastructure, that will change significantly. So to that extent, the game will change. But let me also tell you that there are a lot of states like Haryana, which have adopted almost complete digitization of records. MP is deploying drone technology. We see governments plan under Swamitva. I see there is a scope for the geographical intelligence services, essentially for all lands to be demarcated and shown on Google Earth, Google Map. All of that should play out in a matter of few years, and that will change the game very significantly.
So exciting things coming ahead, sir. Thank you so much for speaking with us. So for more news and updates, keep watching NDTV Profit.